I have a theory about immersion in tabletop RPGs. Well, really, I have several, but this is the first one. The barrier I often see with people who enter this hobby is they often think they need expensive materials or expensive skills to pursue this hobby in earnest. There are so many amazing creators in this hobby, and that's part of the reason why I myself am a part of it. But it's important to recognize that we don't need all of those tools to be immersed in a game, and if you're trying to immerse other people, you certainly don't need those tools either. To get ourselves to the bare roots of immersion, we have to ask, what is it that we're trying to do exactly? Since we are role-playing, the question we want to ask ourselves is how much do we or our players forget that we're playing just a game?
But what if you need a degree of separation to
I know, and you can. And there's a type of immersion for you too. For you and your players to forget that you're playing a game, two things need to be asked of each of you. First being, what causes your players and you to be invested in that game, meaning, what causes you to take it seriously? And also, what motivations do you and your players have for being at the table? The first question I find is easier to answer because if they show up at your table, they probably want to try your game, or at least want to get invested into it to some degree. The second question, though, is much harder to answer, and it takes a little bit more strategy. Some examples of player motivations for being at a table could be the social aspect. They just like seeing their friends, and this is a way to do it. Another one could be that they like puzzle solving. They're people who really like to dive into complicated mechanics and create something that's entirely estranged from the rules. If your players are your close friends, you're lucky because you may already know this about them, so you don't have to go through the effort of trying to tease it out. But if they're not, you might have to do a couple of sessions just to tease out what kind of game they might want to play. This could take the form of a session 0, or maybe levels 1 through 2 to some degree in whatever RPG you're playing, or if you're playing by yourself, it could take the form of you just starting a file and then deleting it, so to speak. The quickest way that I've found is to use what I call the straw test. You're drinking a milkshake, and the milkshake is really thick. Like, really thick. But the straw crimps, and you can't get the milkshake through the straw anymore because the crimp has either created a hole or an impassable part of the straw. How does the person solve this problem? If there's someone that approaches situations by trying to put as little thought and effort into things as possible, they might just go get a new straw. If the player really likes to problem solve, they might try to find a way to uncrimp the straw or plug up the hole with their finger and try to slurp it through the straw anyway. And if your player's an absolute savage, they might take out the straw and try to sip it from the bottom of the straw, then put the straw back in, or just get a spoon. To note, none of these are bad ways to solve the problem. They all get to the solution, and the person still enjoys the milkshake. But depending on what challenges they make for themselves in real life, it might inform you what they might find fun in a game. But anyways, that's just a theory. You can play however you like.